Hello and welcome to another edition of RSF Radio. I'm your host, Joe Monday, and boy, that is a hot mic. This is the podcast where we talk about what's been going on the front page of our Street Fighter, or the FGC at large in general. But right now, I've got with me a special guest. He's been on the show before. You might know him from fucking everywhere. I see you everywhere now. St. Cola, how's it going?
I'm doing fantastic. Sorry, my mic is a little hot. Background noise. I'm still adjusting to the home life of having to, it's not where it used to be, in the BC before COVID, where you sit down at a mic, everything would just be done for you. I really appreciate the streamers after this for what they do, because I damn near can't figure out anything. It's been awful.
See, my issue is that while everything is always set up the same, Windows updates constantly, and every time it does, the audio just gets more fucked, and until it's fucked up beyond all recognition, honestly. But if anybody knows how the show goes, at the very start of the show, whenever I have a guest on, I always ask them what they've got going on. Now, you, sir, you probably have a lot going on right now, a lot of projects in the works, or things you want to point people towards. So hit me with the good stuff. What are you working on? What's up?
At the time of this recording, at least in 2 days, or tomorrow and the day after, it'll be Transitional Combat. I'll be doing commentary and helping with that event. This might be in the past, depending on when this goes out. And I have some other, projects going on.
That's June.
Man,
that's
so many
June.
on the list, man.
That's June 12th, by the way, is the date for Transitional
13th.
Combat. For anyone who's listening to this after the fact, or listening to it right now, being like, I need to get on this and enter now, or at least contribute, because it's. We'll dig into that in a little bit later. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off.
But it's to the point where I have a lot of things going on that I don't have anything particular that I'm pointing towards besides that. So usually I just want to take things one at a time. So we'll just focus on that for right now.
Fair enough. It's because you also have a whole bunch of articles that you've been working on. You've been getting consistent work within I want to say, is it okay to say FGC media? Is that a thing?
I don't know what it is, to be honest. I don't know really what's going on. It just feels like it's like event hubs and then people who are not event hubs. You know what I'm saying? It feels like there's two camps, and it's unfortunate, but they're both the same size, but they just have different sections in the secondary, right? So maybe I'm FGC media. I guess I would consider myself that, or maybe FGC content creator or something like that. I don't know really how to put that one.
No, it's weird because it's you do a lot of work for Red Bull, and that works great. I'm super glad that Red Bull pays for that kind of stuff. That's fucking incredible. But yeah, it is kind of weird how it's just I don't know. Honestly, though, this is gonna be one of those things where people might laugh, but I think Kotaku does actually kind of the most FGC coverage outside of pretty much event hubs. It's event hubs, then Kotaku is the second in terms of FGC reporting, except for FGC specific sites like the Red Bull or Liquid.
Yeah, but on a more consistent basis. Yeah, right. It would probably be Kotaku. That's the one. And it's so weird, but at least there's another area where people can get other opinions. Let's put it that way. There's other opinions out there, or other types of coverage.
Right. But anyway, so what was your last article on Red Bull about? Walk me through that.
The last one was about Daigo and what he's doing to train for the online CPT. It is what it is. And to be honest, a lot of players are maybe not, excited for the prospect of playing online, but they're excited to have the prospect of playing something, right? To work towards something. And it may not be the most optimal thing, everything regarding, how Street Fighter 5 netcode is and all that good stuff. But, I was trying to feel what he was thinking about, in terms of his tier list, what he thinks of the state of the game, how he's preparing and stuff like that. And what I really found interesting were two elements. First, let's get the juicy part out of the way. His tier list, the top 5. And when I interview people, usually I have to go through a translator when it comes to people that are overseas. Mm-hmm. So I don't really get the I can prod him with more questions. Well, why did you think this and this and this? It's more of just here's my questions, and then I answer them, and I hope that they're deep and they're in depth. Daigo's was not that. That's fine. But he said that his top 5 was, if I'm remembering correctly, Urien, Colleen, Akuma, Guile, and Seth. And I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting top 5 to be. I don't know. It's funny that you bring up Daigo saying like nothing that seems too in depth. Where it's like I feel like anytime Daigo does an interview, it's the most like boring answer. It's like the most run of the mill. I am a business answer, as if it's like all been practiced before.
Right? Yeah. Like he wants to get back to the game. He's like, let me just get this out of the way so I can get back to playing more, grinding out more Kage and stuff.
It's like always super boring anytime he speaks like publicly or on record, which is like the opposite to how he runs his stream, which is like him thinking kind of at the top of the head and being like more relaxed and being more honest about like his own. It's very strange how like there's a dichotomy there of like him when he's in front of a microphone for like the press being like, yes, this is my most conservative answer, versus him on stream being like, I think this sucks, or like, I think you're dumb, or you're not working hard enough. But no, how do you feel about Urien in top 5? Because I'm against it. I'm against Urien top 5, personally.
There's two elements, and I just noticed this like maybe like today or just recently that I come from like maybe the old school where you think about like matchups, like individual matchups. There's not many that Urien like straight up loses to. Like usually I don't go along with Rushdown V2. Shout out to Rushdown V2. But Man's made a tier list, and I was like, wow, I can't disagree with anything that's on there. Like the characters that Urien beat and lost to, or went even with everything lined up perfectly. There's like 3 on that list that Urien loses to, and I think that's pretty rare. Even for like the top play or the top characters in the game, like that's pretty rare to have just 3 that you lose to. People would say the same about like Zeku, and I think Zeku loses to like 4 or 5 characters. Same. Angry Birds is about the same thing. So the fact that he doesn't lose to many characters, and the fact that he has such a stable game plan inside and outside of V Trigger, before and after, with the V Skill 2, all those things like make him a super strong character. Now, I don't think you can play him as dumb at a high level. I think, the memes of, gorilla time and all that stuff like that are a little bit overstated. But I do think that when you put the work in this character, he's definitely top 5, maybe top 3, to be honest.
Whoa, those are words.
I'm going bold with it.
Apparently, yeah, that does make sense. That does make sense. But it's like I qualify everything that Urien does, and I'm just like, he's got some glaring holes in his game. But maybe that's just because the way that I think about Street Fighter V is distilled to the point of what general tools does everybody have that are good within the game system, and how that interacts with the game system versus not character to character basis, which in the long run might not matter for a character like Urien. It's got me thinking. You might have changed my mind. Certainly not. It's certainly not Rushdown who's changed my mind. To be clear, it wasn't Rushdown that changed my mind. Fuck that guy. He's the worst. He's the worst. I think we can all agree. This is a known quantity. Fuck him for real. But I might be coming over into Urien, maybe top 5.
I think it's stability and being inconsistent just across the board, and even in the matchups that they deal with that are bad, like Urien loses to Akuma, but like the Akuma has to play perfect. So even in that situation where that character loses to the other character, but the onus is on the other character to play perfect, like, to me that shows such a strong character. Now, if we look at the other characters that Daigo listed, I don't know about Colleen like that. Like, she's always been having issues with like fireballs and stuff. For V Trigger 2, obviously, hot topic, should be 3 bars, all that stuff like that, whatever. I think she has too many glaring flaws in her game plan dealing with fireballs on a consistent basis for her to be top 5. Top 10 for sure. But there's not enough that she can work around with her glaring her flaws to escape that. Urien can do that. Anti-airs, got to be situational, more predictive. You got to use them at the right time, but it just means you have to be more practiced.
Honestly,
said than
though,
with Colleen, though.
Honestly, though, as far as anti-airs are concerned, like, even the slower, worse anti-airs in this game, I think they're all pretty fine. Like, I don't know if anti-airs are that, like, having a, like, quote-unquote consistent anti-air is that big a deal, really. Like, Birdie got the nerf, right, of the crouch medium punch anti-air. But does it really impact his game offline? Online, I think it does impact his game for, like, the where your brain has to react to a jump in versus offline, where it's just a faster one-to-one situation where you can choose the correct anti-air or choose the correct option based on your opponent's trajectory or whatever. But of course, we don't live in an offline world anymore. We live in an online world. So take that for what it's worth. I was specifically thinking about this because I realize now how poor this might look on my character. But I had just, like, flippantly picked up Lucia, like, in the last couple days, and I was thinking about her anti-airs and her crouching hard punch and how it's, like, pretty bad. Like, it only really has an anti-air frame on frame 9 and 10, and it's only really got, like, a good anti-air hitbox on frame 9, so it's, like, it's really not that useful in an offline or an online situation. Online, maybe, but I haven't played her offline against a human because it's not the world I live in. But also, she's a cop, so maybe fuck her. She doesn't deserve one.
I knew it was going to lead into that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm like, I only picked her up because I like characters that not a whole lot of people play. Just like in my mind of thinking like, well, what can be done with this character? What can we explore here that's not being done? Like, that's why I picked up Hakan in Street Fighter 4 because, like, no one was playing him. But guess what? He's fucking dope as hell and, like, has a whole bunch of bullshit that, like, was really, really strong. I don't think Lucia is that case of, like, I don't think Lucia has any bullshit. I don't think she's very strong.
You picked the wrong one, Joe. You picked the wrong one.
Should not have picked the cop. What was I thinking? That's just fuck me, right? Metro City PD, fuck them. All Lucias are bad. Anyway,
exactly.
Regardless, though,
that's the acronym. I love that.
Yeah, that's the new one. A Lab is the new one. Fuck. I'll hold that up on a sign at the protest that's going on, like, kind of down the street. People be like, "What does that mean?" I'll be like, "Let me tell you about this game, Street Fighter V."
And how this character sucks, and for good reason.
Oh, that's silly. Regardless, though. But you've kind of, back to you. You've been all over the place because I have heard you on the mic across the board. You are kind of everywhere. I've seen you dipping your toes into all the tournaments out there. So what's your secret? How are you out there so much? Is it just that you have been putting yourself out there, or is it that you've been putting in the work to become a solid commentator for all of these games, or what's the secret? What's the secret of the sauce? Okay.
It's a mix of everything, man. It's a pot, and you got to mix it. So the thing is like, I've been also seeing, like, online, like on Twitter and some Discord chats and things like that. Man, it's so hard to break into commentary and stuff like that. And in my eyes, this is the easiest time to break into commentary. If you want to do commentary, there's never a better chance, right? You have literally an event pretty much every single day. And if there isn't an event, you can boot up your copy of whatever game that you want, run some lobbies, and commentate over them and make the content yourself. And then invite players in. You could there is so much stuff that you can make, so much content, so much juice and just meat on the bone that you can dine on, that there has never been a better time. And I get that, some people don't have the amount of time. Like, I work from home, I get to work from Red Bull. And then even when I go back to my other job at the library, this still works within my schedule. So it's easier said than done for me in terms of time schedule and stuff. Like, but you can at least find some days out of your week that you have free time to run like an hour or two or whatever, or join an event that somebody else is doing. That being said, a lot of people don't know this, but I have busted my ass, like, getting to these events, making sure that I have the right stuff, making sure that when I'm on commentary, I'm saying the right things, the before and after, promoting the event and helping them out, and then keeping contact with the people that that are the TOs and things like that, right?
Right.
So like there's a aspect that doesn't get seen as much, maybe like at least for beginner commentators, because a lot of people think I just hop on the mic and I can just talk about Street Fighter 5 or Grand Blue Fantasy or whatever. But there's a lot more that goes into it. Like I have an entire process. I have a Google Doc filled with individually, I have pages for characters that I fill out with information, including like combos, notable players, things that some players maybe like to do and stuff like that. I make sure to fill that out and read it a lot. Whatever, depending on what I have coming up. I reach out in contact to the TOs and things like that I want to be part of the events for. I make sure that I have an updated reel, which people need to do. If you do not have an updated reel every single year showing what your progression is or how you've gotten better, you are messing up. I've seen too many people with like 2008, 2009 reels and they are spotty. Please spend the work and time to make something decent. It helps so much. You do not understand. I'm saying this to all commentators. Please make something decent. And all you got to do is it's like 3 minutes and get a hold of someone. I got a hold of RJ/Spin Infinite. He made my reel and it looks masterful. I am like upset every time I look at it because I'm like, I'm not this good. He made me look really good. There's no way I'm this good. I'm trash compared to what he made me look like. But you need to have a good reel. You have to have a good rapport with like the TOs and stuff like that. That means when you're done, like before and after you've done, or before and after you do the commentating, make sure you promote the event. Tweet out and clip things and stuff like that. Put them on your account. Thank them for everything. And then obviously during the event, make sure that you're really engaged in what's going on. Even if it's a local or like a big event, obviously give it the tonality that it deserves. But also give it the attention like it's a major. I just did one for Juicy's Juicy online event, the Florida local that they have. They have an online version, and I do their Tuesdays with one of the Florida players, Jock in the Box. Shout out to him; he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But they only got like 2 people like showed up because of some mishaps and stuff, right? So they ran an exhibition, and I treated it just like it would be exciting anywhere else, right? And
because that's also practice for you, like
exactly.
You're getting the work in.
So I always have mistakes. There's things that I have to clean up. There's things where I even in that one event I messed up on, and I was like, man, that's not Kage's V skill. It's his V trigger. All he has to do is hit the buttons. It's not the same thing. But then I look back on these things and I write down the notes like, okay, it's this, and I go and like learn that. It's like fighting games. Commentary is like fighting games. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep practicing it. You have to find your method of practice too, and you have to be consistent. Those things will lead you to success, and people don't really think about that. They're like, I'll just hop in the mic. I haven't got warmed up or whatever, or I haven't really studied the players that are coming up, or I really haven't studied the matchups. They just hop on the mic, and then they have those empty moments. And
right.
I'm learning to close those by practicing.
That is the one thing that I'm not a good commentator. I will say that. I do not take my word for granted. What I will say though, you bring up the good point of never let there be more than like a beat, which is like a little over of like, it's like a second and a half of like of nothingness, unless there's something where you're just like really engaged and cannot speak, where it like requires silence, which like that situation is not, that doesn't happen very often. But I'm just saying,
right? Yeah,
like you have to have something to put out there so that like you keep the energy moving. You can't have the dead air, because that's the dead air, or like the worst of like when there is dead air and then a co-commentator yawns or something and you're like, fuck man, like what are you doing here? Like get engaged somehow, like right. Flex some muscles, dude, like stand up, like get into it, my dude. I can't have this.
I mean, that's also another thing you got to think about too, is your co-commentator, like how they'll react to things, how their personality is. You have to research that as well, and kind of vibing with them as well too. That's also a thing people have to think about. It's a dance. It's a dance, right? You pass the ball to them, and or you point to them for their dance move. It's like, oh, it's your turn. You show your stuff. You show out what you can do, and it's easier said than done. And that's something that I still need to work on because I feel like I'm a pretty overbearing commentator in general. But it's finding that flow was also part of it. There's so many elements that I wish people would be more.
Actually, you say that, but I say that's fine. I actually like commentating with an overbearing commentator. That means that I can do I can be thinking about stuff while you're doing that. Of like, when someone does that, it's like, oh, because the match will end. You're not going to have anything once the match ends because you're in the moment. You're thinking about what is happening right then. Match is over. Now where are you? The co-commentator's right there to be like, well, here's this thing that I can talk about that I've been observing this whole time, or here's the next thing that's going to happen on stream, or like here's information in general, or here's like a topic that we can discuss. For a co-commentator to think of, I kind of like being in that position. Sometimes it's a thing you gotta like bounce off and be good at, but like again, that's learning chemistry between the person that you're with, because if the other person that you're with also wants to be that kind of like hit by hit, text to throw kind of person, then that's gonna clash, and you're gonna need to work around that in some way. That's not gonna work.
Now that you said that, I think now that I'm like, it's coming to my brain. When I did the Salt Mine League finals, also shout out to the Salt Mine League. They've been doing like the biggest EU like online Street Fighter 5 tournament. They've had the likes of Problem X, Hurricane, Bolt Strike, a ton of people coming through. Akainu coming through and showing like that just awesome EU play. And it was great to like be on the mic with James Chen. But he had a similar thing where he was like, I would be the beat by beat person a lot, and he would just swing it back, and he'd be like, all right, cool. While you were doing that, I have some backup information for the people. Let me hit them with this. Yeah. And that, now that you said that, that's okay. Yeah.
Because that's actually what James is good at. He's good at having that like, well, let's think about this now once the action is over, because he's like a super smart guy. He's played a fuck ton of fighting games and knows the histories of a lot of people. So like that makes total sense to me, at least. But also, again, take all of my commentary with a grain of salt, because it's funny that you said that commentary is like fighting games, and then you said you have to practice. But in my mind, I thought you have to do them drunk. You do those things drunk, yes?
Let's set the record straight right now, because a lot of people, you said that comment on Twitter, and I was like, I didn't get to go into it, but I'm going to say it right now. The way that you do commentary maybe isn't a blueprint of how to do commentary, but it's perfect for you. You're not even Eris. Like, no one else can do Eris, what he does. He breaks the rules, but it's fine because it's Eris. It's okay for you to break the rules because you're Joe. And it works, and it's fun to watch Reddit Street Fighter because you're Joe. Now, if anyone else tried to do drunk commentary like you, it wouldn't work. But that's why that's what makes it you special. That's your style, and you have made it unco-optable at all. Like, no one can touch that. That's actually a feat many people cannot do.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, how would I explain this? Like, I have advice on commentary, because you brought up that you want to talk about commentary, and I'm for that. But like, I can think of advice to give people that's like generally good commentary advice. Not that I would take myself, because I cannot like quantify what happens on Monday night to then turn that into something else. It just happens after having done it for so many years, where like, fuck, man. I mean, were you around during last Monday's tournament with the whole keyboard condom situation?
Not last Monday's, this one.
Okay, fuck. Well, all I have to say is keyboard condom, and then you can't apply keyboard condom to a normal commentary situation. There's no world where that would be a good thing for any other human being to bring up during any kind of event. But regardless,
unless you're Joe.
I suppose. But then again, I also run the event myself, so I have I give myself a lot of freedom here to fuck around a little bit, instead of like the event organizer being like, cut his mic. Yeah, we can't. He's he's sexualizing Mavis Beacon in a way I'm very uncomfortable with. So can we maybe back off on Joe's mic?
I usually mute it and then I commentate over it for like practice.
Right.
But man, I have to leave that one open this time. I might have to just let that run and just listen to sweet, sweet sounds of what you guys did to the keyboard and Mavis Bacon.
It was bad. Meat has bacon. Anyway. But no, what you said though of like getting out there and you have to study. You have to study the game and know what you're talking about with every different character and know like the histories of the players. Like these players have backgrounds. They have stories to tell. And it's kind of your job as a commentator to help tell their story. Take what they're doing in the game, out of the game, and apply that to the person who might be listening.
I think it's also one of the easiest times to do that because if you look on Twitch, literally everybody is streaming. Pretty much everybody is streaming. Every player at different points of the day, everyone's got their stream up. You can sit in there and chat with them. I like almost every single morning, I wake up, I get my coffee, and I get to listen to Angry Bird and Big Bird, complain at each other and just, talk about what's going on. And it's great because you get to sit there and bounce ideas off them. And to me, I think I'm doing my job at least as a knowledge area, right? And like I'm in a decent area of knowledge. I'm not saying I'm good, but like decent when I'm able to have a conversation with top players, And like I feel comfortable with that kind of thing. Like I feel comfortable talking with them. I think I'm at a decent level with that, but this is a good time to actually start practicing that. Like, so if you're wrong or you disagree with something or whatever, you can write it down and like verify it or have a real-time chat with them, which you couldn't do before. You would have to slide through the DMs and they'd be like, who is this person? I don't know who Sephiroth69 is asking about Akuma. He could be asking about Akuma's butthole for all I know. I don't know what's going on. Like, you have no idea. But now you can sit in the Twitch chat, and then if you're stupid, you get shot. But if you're smart, you can get all this information. It's all right in front of your face.
It is funny to me that you say that because I feel like every morning around like 5:30, 6 a.m., it's like you and Angry Bird or Big Bird being like, I don't know about that one. Like having a Twitter art. It's like it is like clockwork every single morning around like 5:30, 6 a.m. It's like, oh, it's these three goons talking about whatever the fuck. Around. Honestly, but like you said though, the accessibility is there. Everyone is open to talk about stuff as long as you're not like a fucking weirdo when you come at them like, I think you're wrong about Zeku and you're dumb. Lol. Like, no, that's not how humans talk to each other. Learn to talk like a human first, you idiot, you piece of lard. But regardless, that was just a little observation every time I wake up. I'm like,
you see them arguing with me like every single time. But the thing is also like when I say all these things and like what you have to do for like what I'm doing right now is like the lowest rung of like what you should be doing as a commentator. I should be doing a lot more, should be studying a lot more in my opinion and watching more matches sometimes. Like Vicious, Sajam, all of them at the top, they are grinding constantly. Vicious especially is the epitome of someone who like they really want to get into this. Like you look at his work ethic and you copy that to a T because he is an absolute monster when it comes to like the grind. Like he is like my guidance, and I wish I was at that level to grind like that. But he what he embodies is also another point is like when you do commentary, like you have to actually think about, just like in fighting games, how far do you want to go with this? Because at the end of the road, you'll be at events and stuff like that. And let's be honest, commentary is not going to be sitting there paying all your bills. This is not a gig that you're doing for a career for the most of us. Maybe a few can do it as a career with some stuff on the side, but it is not one that you can, I'm going to put all my eggs in a basket, just like fighting games, just like esports.
Right.
Right. So it's all, that's why it makes all this easier said than done, because it's like, for me, I have side stuff that doesn't conflict with this stuff that allows me to do both and work hard at both. Mm-hmm. But not everyone has that ability and has the opportunity. So like, I get when people like do not put like a lot of effort like Vicious does into his stuff, because to be honest, the return is not much. Like, I'm going to be real. I don't get paid for a lot of my gigs, and I'm fine with that. I've been upfront with them. I said, you don't have to pay me. Like, I'm cool with just being on the mic. Like, if it's Capcom or somebody else, I'm going to talk. All right. But if it's just like someone running like Salt Mine League or whatever, I'm more than happy to do it for free. Or like a local, I'm more than happy to come through for free. That's perfectly fine. But like there is, you shouldn't do this for the money, and then it's not something you can rely upon as like, you know, funds. And so I can get why someone would not spend all this time and effort just to like say some shit on the mic for like 3 hours and then
right.
Hey, see you later. Thank you, you know, for your time.
Right. They're not going to treat it like a job if it's literally not a job.
Right.
I'm like, you can't.
It's not.
You can't really hold them to. It's like, you know what? That's a good argument there. This is kind of not a huge, but like you're right though. If you do want to get better at it though, that's how you have to treat it. And I don't know. That's the thing though, is that we live in a time. This also goes out to tournament organizers out there, where we live in a time where literally anyone can hop on the mic now because it's all online. So if someone shows up and phones it in, even though they are literally phoning it, just track with my reference. Like, I know that I'm talking allegorically, but no, even though they are phoning in it, like you don't have to have that person back if they're
right.
If they're just going to be lazy on the mic. You don't have to. You could have anyone else. And this is like, I don't know, it's true of like our Street Fighter Weekly. Like anyone can... I say yes to anyone who is asked at least once. Like if they do a bad job, I'll be like, like maybe not this time. But like usually I like to give people the opportunity because it is it's a place where you can just hop in and do it. Like why not? But if you're going to hop in and do it, I recommend you actually try, not just like be there to hang out. Yeah.
I hear sometimes like on the mic when, you know, if I watch a local whatever or watch something where it's like just like a normal event. One of the issues is like that stems from it is like to the TOs, like that's why maybe that I'm gonna toot my own horn a little bit, but the reason why, you know, some people have been coming to my DMs and asking me for stuff is because I give that energy because it makes it watchable. Because to be honest, when the commentary is really dry and boring, it is hard to watch something. And I hate to say it, but like sometimes it's like you either have to mute it or you go to something else. And so you want your event to have someone who's like, who they're interested on, you know, on what's going on the screen. Like my girlfriend, when she doesn't care about fighting games, right? She doesn't really care that much like I do. But
Fair.
She'll watch some matches with me if the commentators are good too. Like if they're excited, she may not know what's going on, but she feels that excitement. And then it's like, oh, I understand why this is exciting. Or
right.
They're having fun. I kind of am having fun. You know, the suggestion, like, oh, I should be having fun. Oh, the music's playing. I should be dancing.
No, that's a good point. And I think that is a specifically good thing to bring up, because something that you might not think about is that the majority of the matches, especially early on in a tournament, are not going to be that compelling. They're either, I mean, sometimes they are. I'm not going to say that like that's not always the case, because sometimes you do get really good matches early on, but a lot of times it's like, oh, this was a blowout, or like, oh, I see a lot of technical errors happening here. And when that starts happening, it's like, well, how would a professional commentator for like, think about like basketball, right? Like at a high school level, there's probably a lot of technical errors versus a like collegiate level or NBA level. Like, but at the same time, you're going to have that NBA commentator commentating over high school basketball. That's going to sound different. So like, you're going to have to bring something else to the table to make it a little more interesting to watch, because there's not a whole lot of people out there watching high school basketball for entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope that like, and even I sometimes I kind of get a little too like, maybe not like as excitable sometimes. It's something I still have to work on, but like I hope that, you know, other commentators kind of think about this stuff and are like, maybe I should treat this local or whatever I'm doing with, you know, a little bit more energy, or find a way to put the energy or fun into it. Because in all honesty, when it comes down to it, like you also have to think about, there are other people outside the FGC that are watching this, that could be watching this, this could be their entryway. And if you're on the mic and you're doing not the fun kind of golf commentary, but like straight up golf commentary, and you're just there and you're slumped in your seat and your eyes are kind of wavering a little bit, like they'll feel the energy and be like, why am I watching this? I don't get it. Why this is, this is whatever. Like, and the same is reversed. Like, I don't watch sports. My girlfriend has, football on. I can tell when the moments are amping up and climax is coming because of the tonality, because of their pitches, because of what they're saying. I don't really need to like tune into the game all the way. I can be like, oh, this is a moment right here where I can look over and see the exciting parts of it, right? So I hope that people kind of like start focusing on that. And I know it's hard because like honestly, commentary is such a young thing and it's such a difficult thing to like. There's no path. There's not like YouTube videos besides Sage Am and a few others that are like, this is what you should be doing. And in all honesty, a lot of it's subjective. But I'm hoping people start to think about like, yo, you might have other audiences besides the FGC. And even in the FGC, they want to watch something that's exciting. They don't want to watch people, be bored on the mic. You see it in the chat. People are like, oh man, this is blah, 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 blah. This guy sounds like, he's got, 3 mouths or something like that. So like, I don't know. Like, think about it like this. Do you want to watch someone being boring on the mic, or do you want to watch someone that's having some sort of excitement? Like, play it like that. What would you want to see? And then reenact that when you're on the mic.
Mm-hmm. And like, if you're having fun, chances are the people who are listening are also having fun. Like, have fun with it. Like, it's supposed to be fun. It's not, because like I said, it's not really a job. You can have fun with it. And like you said, like I sometimes get a lot of heat because sometimes I like to talk real low, do a little bit of golf commentary, have a little fun that way. And someone called me, they were like, "This is like jazz commentary." So I did my best like Lou Rawls impression, and I was like, "Okay, we're listening to the jazz commentary."
But see, you rolled with it though, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And good. It's like you kind of have to. Even though like that person started to have fun then because they were like, this is a very fun commentary. I was like, all right, fuck you. We're going to have fun with it. Don't like this? How about try this on for size? I don't know. Because then there's the whole other issue of like, how much do you listen to chat? Which is like, that's very hit or miss depending on like the number of viewers or like the level of moderation that's going on in the chat. And all that shit. That's a fucking toss up in my opinion.
You just tell the people like, and that's just the thing where it's like, in general, like the chat can say whatever they want. If you're invited back to the events or just in general are getting continuous amounts of like, things or events to go to or TOs are reaching out to you, you're doing your job for whatever reason. Like a few knuckleheads in the chat, whatever. If it's a lot of people, it's a consistent basis, maybe you want to look into things or, maybe reevaluate some things here and there. But I think those things go hand in hand with like the majority of the chat, as long as it's from like a good source, are decent and they like what you're doing. Plus the TOs and the event organizers being like, "Yo, come on back. We would like to have you back, or come over to this event and stuff like that." So, all I want to say about that one is, people making fun of my hair because of COVID and stuff like that. I didn't get a haircut. Y'all wrong for that one. Y'all, that's the worst I've seen. Like the past couple of weeks was like when I was on camera for Wednesday Night Fights a couple weeks ago. They were like, "You can get a haircut." I'm like, "Yeah, it's COVID," but I can't say that when you're on the mic. You just gotta let it go.
Saint, how's the fade looking? Is it not?
There's nothing. It's not a fade. It's a forest. It's awful out here. It's terrible. I'm looking at sports clips and I'm like, maybe I'll do it. I'm not sure. I am staring at it like this could be a possibility in my life.
Yeah, my haircut place is like kind of reopening, but I'm like, nah, I don't. We'll just let it grow. This doesn't need maintenance. Like this is fine the way it goes. Plus, I've talked about my haircut place before. Plus, when I go back, they're not going to do the whole glass of whiskey when I go because again, COVID. I go and I get a glass of whiskey. I sit down. It's a whole thing. But that's not going to be the case because of the pandemic that's going on. Because we live in a nightmare world, and that's only the one of the many nightmares that are happening right now.
Absolutely,
it's wild that's not even like the biggest. Anyway,
people forgot about it while we deal with the other thing.
That just became to light, which unless there's anything else you want to talk about on commentary, we should probably transition into.
Nah, that's good. Just people, please just enjoy what you do when it comes to commentary. Don't take it too seriously, but also make sure you prepare and all that good stuff. Just have fun with it. That's about it.
Have fun. Don't say anything racist because
please don't.
Please don't.
Please don't.
Listen, I'm a white guy who's been speaking into a microphone for many years now, and I've never said anything racist. It's a fucking miracle, right? You would think white man speaks into microphone. It's bound to happen eventually.
The gamer word didn't come out? No.
I know. I haven't had that heated gamer moment yet. I wonder why. Maybe start removing words from your vocabulary. Maybe start thinking about, the words that you say might have meaning. Maybe you should do that, but who am I to say? Especially if you're like volunteering for the first time for an event and then you say something problematic. I wouldn't expect to get another job, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, sometimes they wait a few weeks and they're fine. But anyway, what's going on in the world? What's going on in the world right now?
That's a good question because there's been a lot of actually really cool things I want to say within the FGC in terms of the intersectionality between Black Lives Matter and the community at large. I would say mostly because our community is already widely diverse to begin with, and has a lot of historical roots in Black culture. Like you might not know this, kids, but a lot of the hype things that people say come from Black culture, and the way that commentary kind of is and used to be. You could even tie that back to a lot of hip hop culture and such. So there's roots here that I think are worth at least reflecting upon. But the community at large has really stepped up and really been impressive in the ways that they are genuine and not just posturing in a way to say that they support equality, because I think that our community really wants to show that we do, and we have for a long time. I think that that's the difference, is that we have supported equality, or at least tried to support equality. It might not be true of women within the community or things like that, but it's... So I just kind of wanted to get your take on, what in your mind has the landscape looked like for you?
I am going to be 100% honest. I've been in this community for years, since the days of Street Fighter 2. People don't know this, but I am old as hell. I'm 32 years old. But I've been around the block for a while. And I did not expect the community to respond like this, to be honest. I did not expect for people to put their necks out for, Black people, for just equality in general. I did not expect for, the amount of money that has been raised by you guys, Rona Rumbles, a ton of people across the board, coming out. I did not expect people that are in my community to consistently mention, the things that Black people face, the negative things that Black people face, and really, promote those voices and things like that. This even goes for people who are top players and stuff like that. People who are just people who are not people have wide reach that could really lose a lot from this, whether it be their sponsors if they weren't on board, whether it be their fan bases if they weren't on board, or otherwise. So it's actually been, at least in that regard, it's been mostly amazing. And it's also been amazing because some dumbasses have been flushed out and put down the drain, and it's beautiful to see. That also looks great too.
Mm-hmm. It's a good look.
It's honestly, they're obviously, the way that everything has been happening is maybe not the, nobody wants to take it this way, but we had to take it this way, and that's just, pent up aggression and things like that. But at the same time, it's great to see the support from the FGC, kind of recognizing, we do have a lot of minorities. We are a hugely minority run, community, and we have to stick together. And if you're not on board, get off board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of those things where you say maybe it didn't happen, but it did. Unrest is just the that's the conclusion when it comes to years and years of broken social contracts between like black people and society, at least in America. I can personally not speak of my historical knowledge of black people's experience in other countries. I can only speak of what I know and have researched with America. And I know that it's been bad for a long time, even though you might think as a white person, MLK died and then we solved racism after that. Don't worry.
Right.
No, that didn't happen. Like, there were systems in place and still are in place that are designed to keep that community from gaining any wealth or like moving forward in society. And it's like, you have to look at these things and recognize them, and unrest and protests and maybe a little bit of violence. Because actually, I say maybe a little bit of violence, but mostly from what I've seen, the people who are actually out there protesting, the majority of them are actually really have been very peaceful and just like,
right.
We're just here
until
to stand
they're agitated or they're shot at or something happens from the cop, which is like, predetermined from them to do those kinds of things. So it's like they're peacefully protesting, which is their right, and the cops want to shut down that right. And you get what you get from that, right? And you see the cops later on, we're being vilified, and we're vilifying you because we have the video of you and 400 other videos of you doing similar things where we're peacefully protesting or just peacefully living our lives, and you come after us. So just as you said, this is just the result of those pent up aggressions. And I feel that, being a black man myself, I feel those things. Like when I go outside, I got to move a certain way, I got to be a certain way, and I wish it didn't have to be that way, but it is. I already told the story on Twitter about that stuff, about the cop staring at me for a second, and this is right before curfew was about to start, and I was like, just my throat just like clenched up. As soon as he left, I bolted home, because any number of things could have happened. But that kind of thing happens all the time in that neighborhood. Like, I've moved and it's only a couple blocks up, and it's not nearly as bad so far, knock on wood, but it could be that bad. And I have to move like that my entire life. And that's not a way. I mean, to be honest, it's not a way to live. To live in constant fear when you see a cop car, or you maybe if you piss off the wrong person, they call the cops, they say the wrong thing, and all they get is a slap on the wrist and their dog taken back and put back in their hands maybe 2 weeks later or whatever, and then you maybe end up dead or maimed or whatever. So it's not. It's something that I deal with on a daily basis. But to see the FGC, combat that and really put their fists up in the air, I love it. Now, one thing I'm going to say, Joe, is about these companies. All right. I'm not going to mention any certain companies. I'm not going to put anyone on blast. But all I'm going to say is, if you put Black Lives Matter with hashtag in your statement, if you put money towards them, the right organizations, if you give paid time off so people can volunteer or protest or whatever, you're doing your part. If you don't do any of those things, you just put out an empty statement without even the hashtag Black Lives Matter, you are putting out a very empty statement. You are self-serving. You are doing it just to have it out there, and you don't really care. And I'm not going to say which companies or who or whatever, but I was very disappointed in a few and their silence, especially when they're very supported by, heavily supported by the black community, and have people who have been grown up on those games, and to see that silence or see that lack of care was shocking. So I'm hoping that some of these companies kind of look back at what, maybe what other companies are doing and say, we should up this, because what, I get it. At the end of the day, some of this is marketing, some of this is whatever, but I would rather have this than the silence. I would rather have this than, I'm just going to not say anything at all, or I'm going to give an empty statement or whatever. Put your foot down.
Yeah. I think at least you mentioned something that I think is important, of living or at least expressing the lived experience of a black person in America is reaching the people who have never thought about what that means before. People who don't recognize that just existing and the way that you have to carry yourself is, you can be on edge. There's times where you have to be or play things different. You have to put on like a different like a different tone, or like walk a different way, And I think that people now realizing that, oh, their lived experience is far different from my lived experience, that's wrong. And then where that takes them from there is like, that's the starting point. And then when, like, that could be a starting point of research of like, well, what can I do to help solve that problem instead of just ignoring it like I have for literally my whole life, is a good start. For example, I think that there was a really good thread earlier today about something that I just hadn't considered before, but makes complete sense when I think about it for half of a second, is that black cosplayers and as compared to white cosplayers and the carrying around of fake weapons. I mean, there's numerous stories of black people being murdered by the police for having toy guns, toy swords, like not even that. And you're going to go out in a costume and have a sword with you're going to have maybe not a buster sword. That's a bit silly, but but like,
or just like anything at all.
Yeah. If you're going to put work into a craft and have this like really nice looking, like cool ass gun that you've like spent a lot of time on to like look exactly like the gun from the property that you like, you might not even try to do that as a black person in America because you're like, oh, I could die walking to the event. Like, that's a very real thing that could potentially happen. And like, there are stories of people who are black while cosplaying who have been like approached by the police or like shit like that, which is just,
what gang are you with? Like, you know, it's like I'm playing Final Fantasy, dude. Like, relax. Like,
have you heard of my Lord and Savior Sephiroth? 420 blaze it. And that's just another of many things, because that I think has a lot of intersectionality with our community, because you go to any event and there's tons of people cosplaying. So what does that mean for just things that white people might not think about, or even like other people of color might not think about, that aren't as targeted as black people in America, because that isn't that way. You can't just generally say people of color. It is a specifically black experience. But
I mean, even just like quickly bouncing off of that is like, when I travel, I really want to look at an area and what the culture is like there, because I have to worry, like, what's going to happen if I quote unquote step out of line. I know, CEOs had a lot of issues.
Daytona.
Has had a ton of issues. I have not went, and after reading those issues, like ice being thrown at people and stuff like that, like with the increased amount of agitation from the police, like, you don't know what could happen. I'm sure there's been plenty of people who are like, I don't want to go to Daytona. I don't want to deal with that. Just because they're afraid. Imagine that you have to wake up and think about, like, do you want to go to this fighting game tournament where all your friends, everyone's going there? And if you go there, you have to carry yourself a certain way. You can't go out in certain areas. You have to be really cautious. And, if you do get into some sort of altercation, you have to make sure someone's maybe taping you to make sure it wasn't your fault or whatever, because when the cops come, they may not believe you, and so on and so on. All these things escalate, and you can't really enjoy yourself as much, Right. And that goes for, just in general. Like, even when I was traveling, last year, I started to think about, even if I'm going to Las Vegas, like, I'm still gonna be treated differently. It doesn't matter where I go.
Right.
There's different levels to things, or different areas will be treated differently. If the cops come in Las Vegas, what's going to happen? Like, if I'm drunk, are they going to, pull me over or whatever? Who knows? Not pull me over. I'm not going to be driving and walking, but you know what I mean. I wanted to clarify that so people don't clip that and they're like, wait, what? What did he say?
Drinking and driving, super cool, says Sankola.
That's going to be on Event Hubs. Y'all got a new story. You're welcome. But that is honestly...
Look up stop and frisk. Like, just in general. Like, if this is the first time you've heard of that, maybe look it up and see how it has impacted communities.
Mm-hmm.
But
that is
I know, but you're right though. It's a whole thing. Whenever we start going back to, like, I don't want to say normal, because I don't want to go back to normal. I want things to be different. I want it to be a different experience for everybody. It'll be interesting to see what life is like post-COVID when things really get back to it. But until then, stay safe out there. Protest if you can. Do it safely if you can. If that's not an option for you, donating's great, or spreading any kind of messaging, or spreading information, anything like that. Any way to help out to stay on the right side of history, let's say. I think that I should hope that at some point within the next decade or so, the people who are standing in opposition of this will stand to be vilified correctly in a lot of ways. I'm looking forward to that, honestly.
Me too. Like, to be honest, already seen it happen at the FGC. Like, I'm very proud of people calling some of that stuff out, bringing it to light, and seeing people say, well, I was already done anyway. Well, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Yep.
Bye.
Yep. And that's just one of the many issues that the fighting game community has with maybe having all things equal, but we'll get there, folks. we'll get there in time. One step at a time, let's say. But any other thoughts before we move on to our final topic?
Just kind of end it. I do want to thank everyone that has shown that support, and if you haven't, just know that we're watching. That's all I got to say. We're watching.
Ooh, you raise a good point. I should say something I thought of earlier but didn't bring up, but I saw a figure a couple days ago. Our friends at Matcherino shared with me that of all of the Black Lives Matter charity events that have gone just on Matcherino, just Black Lives Matter in general charities, we as a community have, just fighting game community, not like anywhere else, have raised over $30,000. Which is fucking awesome. That's crazy.
You did that in one day, scooped up in basically one day. I mean, maybe there's some spillover, obviously, but for you to start that up and just run that and get that amount is ridiculous.
I'm talking about FGC large, because our event raised $17.5, right? So then everybody else who has run an event since then, and that's just the start of, because some of these events that were shown to me and listed in this Excel spreadsheet were this hasn't even started yet, and they've got a couple $100 in there, so already they're off to the races. So it's we're starting at 30K right now, and those numbers are only going up, which is that's incredible to see so many people so consistently giving and supporting this cause over this amount of time, because this has been really something else. It's been really impressive to see how many people have put their money where their mouth is and stepped up, which has been really cool, in my opinion, because 30K is that's a chunk from a community that has been historically known to be cheap as fuck. Who won't spend $5 on on another character, or feel like they're getting nickel and dimed among all DLC.
Gotta give them credit. Yeah, I mean,
gotta give it up.
Before it was, I don't want to, pay for this and that, and I'm gonna eat from McDonald's. I'm not gonna eat out when I go to travel. I'll sleep on the floor. But you know what? Y'all really stepped it up.
Yep, y'all showed up about to put your money really where your heart is, which has been really incredible. So keep that energy, folks. Keep it up. But speaking of keeping up that energy, it is also Pride Month, as it turns out. And I think that there's a extremely poignant overlap between Pride Month and Black Lives Matter, specifically for the fact that black trans people have huge, the murder rate on black trans people is egregious. If you look, it is frightening. If to be a black trans person in general, I cannot relate to that experience at all, or even begin to imagine the fear that it would be to just exist as that kind of person. To which I will say that Amanda Stevens, if you follow her, has put up this fundraising tournament, which we mentioned at the top of the show, happening on June 12th. I imagine that the fundraiser will remain open for a time afterwards. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's a fact, but it's at least going over the weekend for sure. And I'll include the links in the show notes. But I'm seeing that Transitional Combat has raised over $4,000 already, which is, it hasn't even started yet. It's not even a thing yet. And they've already raised that much money.
How amazing is that?
It's fucking incredible. So you're going to be doing commentary for that on, did you say which day, or do you know the schedule yet?
Both days. For East Coast, I don't remember if I'm doing, it's like, they're cutting the blocks. So like I'll either be doing like pools and then like maybe like top 16 or something like that. And then the next day is like, you know, like maybe 32 and then top 8 or something like that. But both days. So they're going to be cycling through all the 4 commentators for Street Fighter 5, East Coast and West Coast. But it'll be fun. It'll be entertaining. It's great to, like as you said, see that we've already hit way past the goal. It was supposed to be just like we're aiming for $1,000.
Yeah.
When I did the voice work, I was like, do you want to say $1,000? Like, I feel like, people are going to come out for this one. And they did. And I was like, yes, let's go 4,000. Like, but I mean, it's not even, it's not even showtime. So it could get even higher, get even more. But having a 2-day event, I know there's other things that are going on. There's other events and all stuff like that. But at the same time, I feel like might be one of those events where, the FGC comes out for it, and then also people outside the FGC come out for it, and kind of just want to help, support a cause. That's really the hope for the event. I can't really speak to like maybe the demographic that's presented here, but I definitely want to help out in whatever way I can and supporting them.
Yeah. Again, I can't either. Amanda has been on the show before and spoken about that experience. But the proceeds will go to Trans Lifeline, and it's, from what I know, a really good charity to help trans people survive in general, be that if they're kicked out of their house or something like that. There's just a whole bunch of things that they help out with. So go check out that event. It will be linked in the show notes wherever you find this. Or if you're finding this afterwards and just think, oh, it's Pride Month, and I feel like I should be helpful in some way, you could always just donate directly to Trans Lifeline. That's also an option. If it's like, oh, I didn't hit this event, well, guess what? That charity still exists, and it will continue to exist for some time. So if you're able to, and if that's something that you are passionate about, then I would say please do. Be giving if possible. Because, again, I'll state that it just feels like specifically this time in history, with it being Pride Month and the kind of renaissance that we're seeing in our country right now concerning Black Lives Matter and the value of Black lives in America, I think honing in on that very specific Black trans lives matter is really poignant. Just maybe also, if this is the first time that you've heard that being a Black trans person in America is extremely deadly, then maybe it's a good time to start researching that topic and look into it for yourself to understand the history behind all of that and what that might mean for folks of that disposition.
It's really amazing that Amanda brought this, to life in such a short span. So mad props to her for doing this and just organizing it and just running it. This is one of those things where I feel like maybe other people might, they might have, have some hurdles or whatever, but she's so headstrong. She got everything together. She got the schedule together. It's amazing being under her banner.
Yeah, it was about a 2-week run up, and the promos are cut. There's big ad space shit going on. There's all this cool looking stuff that within a 2 weeks run up, and a bum tooth, which she literally just had a root canal was it earlier today or yesterday,
and she's still operating
and still doing it.
Yeah, she's ridiculous. She's Superwoman out here.
Absolutely.
But hopefully this I'm hoping all this stuff starts to spur more of charity events and more events that are within this vein, because I think this needs to happen, and this will help with more diversity just in general with our scene, and kind of maybe I hate saying it, but rooting out the bad and putting in the good. Once everyone's on board with something, transitional combat, things like that, Black Lives Matter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like it just helps to introduce the good in the community that we need.
I think that the interesting thing to say there is that I think that the people who are here to enjoy fighting games have realized that the people who might be really good at playing these games, who might be antagonistic towards equality, we don't need them. It doesn't matter how well they play. I don't care what kind of cool shit they might be bringing to the table in the game. It is 100% harmful to the community to have people like that in it, especially when it's like we want to be more welcoming to everybody, and what better way to do that than to get rid of the people who are extremely toxic. But and I think that we're seeing more of that as the weeks go by, which has been really cool in my opinion.
Yeah, I love to see it.
You love to see it. You love to see it. You love to see a good dunking. But regardless, Sankola, that's about all the time we have for this show. Is there anything else you wanted to touch upon before we shut the lights off here?
Really, I just hope that, I guess the easiest way to say it is, like, I hope that people from all these experiences, whether it be Black Lives Matter or transgender people have to deal with on a daily basis, or anyone of any diversity or that's different from you, I hope that, having just a sampling of what you see in the FGC should have you reach out to somebody and maybe ask questions, or just do your research on your own. Like, you do have Google, like, maybe not always, put the onus on the oppressed, but maybe all of this should bring to light, like, maybe start time to learn some history or learn what other people are going through and learn what your fellow man or woman are going through, especially, when you have to sit down and play with them, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to be a community, and it's hard to be a community when you are not, ride or die with other people that are, in it. It's easy to say, oh man, I can't wait to sit down and play, Street Fighter 5 with you, we'll run some sets or whatever. But it's harder to say, I will stand up for your rights. And it has been good to see that, but I hope people keep that same energy, because, this is not a fad. This is not something we're going to just jump off of, a couple days, what's the new thing? Murder hornets. Yay. I got to worry about that. Whatever. But
winter can't come fast enough. I'm telling you.
They're just going to evolve. You're going to get coats. You're just going to get coats, Joe. It doesn't matter. But honestly,
fuzzy murder hornets.
Fuzzy murder hornets, nice and warm and toasty.
Jesus.
But it's a lot of work to do all these things, but it's going to create a better community, create a better atmosphere for everybody. And to be honest, it's going to grow it so that we have more to play, more to do, and it's only going to help things. So, I love to see this energy, but I hope it continues, and I hope that people, really start taking to these causes and running with them.
Something else that kind of just one more thing to maybe close on here. Just a thought that I had while you were speaking is that for anyone out there who has been involved in the community for a long time, maybe even new, do not be complacent with your stance on these issues because of how the community has maybe treated them in the past. Don't point to the trans people already within our community and say, here is this monolith of, see, we as a community are good because Ricky Ortiz exists here, or we are good as a community because we have tons of black commentators that are super important to the community, or tons of black players who've been super important to the community. Do not rest on those laurels and think that gives you a pass just because those things exist, especially if you had no part in building that acceptance of where those people stand within the community. Don't just think that you're getting a pass on that one. Put in the work. You can't just ride those laurels. But anyway, that's just a thought that I've had, because I've seen a lot of people be like, no, we're fine. Look at this. Look at this thing I have on a podium over here. I've saved all my black friends right here. So,
I mean, they've done that. We saw that before when women are, routinely, shit on by other people in the community, and they'll be like, "Well, yeah, but we have Sherry and we have this and this," and it's like, that's nice, but we can have more. And also, you do not use them as, an example. Like, it's like, oh, I have a black friend, or oh, I have a female friend. Like, that doesn't give you the right or bias.
I'm married to a woman. I love women. Guess what, fam? A lot of people beat their wives. Many of them are cops. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's like 40% of cops beat their wives. It's fucking crazy.
Isn't it wild?
It's fucking wild,
but it's also... It's not that wild if you think about it.
It's totally not that wild. It's totally not that wild, fam. But yeah, like you said, you cannot just point to these like totems and say, "Look at this. We've got this. I love Sherry Jennings. I love Romanova. You can't just point to these people who exist and say that has solved. You cannot point to MLK and say that we've solved racism. You cannot point to these people and say that we've solved these issues. You cannot do that. It has to be something that you have to get involved in and learn the history of and know what the fuck you're talking about, and also continue forward with that in mind. So like, if you're saying that, listen, I love MLK, which is why I hold my very racist beliefs. Jesus Christ.
Misquoting MLK will never not piss me off. Just so people, you saw the dude on Twitter correcting MLK's actual spawn. Like, are you kidding me? He was like, I don't think MLK would. No, dude, shut the hell up. Go fuck yourself.
Oh, man, fucking wild world we live in. But that's going to do it for your show. But before I let you go, I have to ask you one quick question. You can answer it the same way, or you can change your answer. It's a question I ask everybody. What is your favorite normal attack in any fighting game?
I'm changing it. Before I said I love the tiger uppercut. That was like the thing, the power that was behind it. But it's no longer there with Sagat. So I'm changing it. Jump heavy punch with Rolento. Any game.
Okay. That big and if he swipe.
Returns, it's so goofy. And if he returns, I'm using it every single day of my life.
Man, that fucking like neutral jump hard punch is like, he basically hits you at the top of his jump arc before he even has a chance to come. It's fucking wild, that shit, man. It's
got like a weird cross up in 4. Like it's not a cross up. It's dumb.
Crazy.
It's so dumb. I love that character. Capcom, please bring him back. I'm tired of playing neutral. Neutral needs to go. I'm done. I want to sit down and turn up my brain and do things that other characters can't and just be stupid.
Let me do what I
need to do.
Is that I agree with you. Because a lot of that shit was easy to manage. Like, you just had to fucking deal. Like, as long as you learned how to deal with it, easy to. But that's just my opinion.
No one's gonna do that. That's why I want him back.
Learning? Who would want to try and learn something? Listen, do commentary like you play fighting games drunk, and no one's gonna learn how to play. You can do Rolento either way. Favorite combo in any fighting game?
Man, and now I gotta say Patriot Circle. Just hit me with the Rekkas. That's what I love. You don't understand how I'm about like Rolento like right now. Like I am legit. Like I guess the second one would just be like maybe Oro's Unblockables, but that's not really super specific because he puts the booger out and you gotta hold that on third strike. But really, just the straight up Rekka pressure when they all land and they just hit right from Rolento.
Yeah, I do like a good Rekka. I feel like Street Fighter V is very lacking in the Rekka situation. It doesn't feel like, give me a Fei Long. Give me a Fei Long. I want those Rekkas.
I would take a Fei Long, but I gotta have Rolento though. That's if they're ending it right and quote unquote leakers are correct, which they're not. I'd like to see Rolento pop up. I like that to my character, so I want those moves to come back so I can be done with neutral.
All right. Well played, sir. With that is a show. St. Cola, where can people find you on the internet?
Basically just my Twitter, @_St. Cola. That's where I have, if I'm doing any events, I'll put them up there. If I'm putting any articles, I'll put them up there as well. Or, you can just find me goofing around saying stupid stuff and, don't have to follow, just look at it.
Word. All right. And again, you can find me at Super Joe Monday or at RedditSF on Twitter.com or hop on our Street Fighter to see what's happening every day of the week, which surprisingly, I want to say this. Generally speaking, our Street Fighter has been really devoid of like racist comments, and like the racism has not spiked as the Black Lives Matter movement has gained steam, which you would think those two things go hand in hand, but I think that the community in general the community harbored there has really managed themselves well. And props for you for not being a racist, Reddit. Congratulations, you did it.
Absolutely.
Which, like,
that's the bar, but at the same time,
that's a small,
but good.
It's a small victory, but we got it. We got them. We take those W's, man. We take them.
Least racist Street Fighter community. Hell yeah, give the award to them.
We take those. But yeah, that's a show. You can catch this mostly every Thursday-ish, sometimes Fridays. Don't forget about the tournaments on Monday nights on the East Coast, Fridays on the West Coast. But don't forget about Transitional Combat happening this Friday and over the weekend. But that is going to be a show, folks. Until next time, take care and peace.